ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੇ ਤ੍ਰਿੰਜਨ ਸ਼ੋ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਨਿੱਘਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਪੂਰਾ ਸੀਜ਼ਨ ਆਪਾਂ ਰੂਬੀ ਡਾਲ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਐਂਡ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਰਨੀ ਬਾਰੇ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ we've talked so much ਰੂਬੀ from ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਚਪਨ ਦੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤਾਇਆ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਕੁਝ ਪੈਸੇ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਹ ਚਾਹ ਦੇ ਕੱਪ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਐਂਡ ਸਮ ਹੌਟ ਡੌਗਸ ਤੇ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਟਾਲ ਲੱਭਿਆ ਜਿੱਥੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੋਇਆ from reading and then we got up to your fourth book Dear Self and ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬ੍ਰਦਰ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਕਿਤਾਬ ਲਿਖ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੁਣ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਪਬਲਿਸ਼ਰ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਗਏ ਹੋ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਤਸਵੀਰ ਵੀ ਬਣੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ it's so beautiful
thank you
writer books penguin which is huge ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ
ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਲੈਂਦੀ ਸੀ
oh ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ so ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਲਾਸਟ ਵੀਕ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਕਿਤਾਬ ਜਦੋਂ ਪਬਲਿਸ਼ ਹੋਣ ਨੂੰ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਉਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬ੍ਰਦਰ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ what if it doesn't do as well as Dear Self so we were talking about how that anxiety creeps in again and the self-doubt and ਤੁਹਾਡੇ brother ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ Ruby you've already made it so this book is very different to your first book which was little pieces of poetry and now this is a full-blown self-help book helping other people heal on their journey and here you say heal your heart set healthy boundaries and unlock your inner strength so let's talk about because I know that you're really big because I follow you on Insta and I know you're really big on self-care and self-love and all of those things so let's really talk because that's essentially what this book is about hana ਕਿ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਹਸਬੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਮਾਂ-ਬਾਪ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਭੈਣ ਭਰਾਵਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਚਾਚਿਆਂ ਤਾਇਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਡਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਐਂਡ ਇਹ ਕਿਤਾਬ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਸਿਖਾਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਮਜ਼ਬੂਤ ਕਰਨਾ ਕਾਇਮ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਹੈ because if your relationship with yourself is good then it filters out into every other relationship so tell us about this book Ruby and how that little 10-year-old girl dreaming reading for escapism gets to this point where she's now inspiring millions of people
thank you so much for me I think as you said jo to sada apne aap de naal jo rishta hunda hai it's very very important mere hisab naal it's very very important to help you heal ਤਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ traumatic experience ਤੋਂ ਗੁਜ਼ਰਦੇ ਹੋ you start a healing journey right you start a journey through which you're trying to move on you're trying to become stronger you're trying to move forward after that painful experience and my belief and what I write in this book is that jo sab to zaruri cheez hai us time vich self love hai okay
do you think ke self love comes after and self-care comes first
so how I see it is and it's something that a misconception that I clear in the book is that self-care is one side
of self-love so self-care and so apne khud da khayal rakhna
it's just one side
nu pyar karna
and it's at face value how I see self-care is something that you do to deal with the outside it's not what you do to deal with the inside so I define it as in this book specifically so jad main let me give you a little story when I was trying to heal when I was trying to
last menu story to yaad aaya tusi last week vi keh rahe si ki main ek story ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ share ਕਰਾਂਗੀ
jo meri like basically you said ke how is your community
ਹਾਂਜੀ
like how
ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਭੁੱਲਣੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ
okay so ਇੱਕ ਸਾਲ ਬਾਅਦ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣਾ Instagram page create ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਲ ਬਾਅਦ ਮੈਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਤੇ unblock ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ because someone messaged me from my community someone who
ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੀਆਂ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ
it was someone from like who I knew from younger so like you know ਮੇਰੀ community ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਬਚਪਨ ਤੋਂ and he messaged me he was like Ruby he's like I've heard about your new book and I'm so excited for you but why can't I open your like why can't I access your writing page and then I remembered I was like oh no he's blocked so then I unblocked him and then I unblocked everybody because at that point I was no longer like my writing.
You weren't hiding.
I was no longer hiding, and I found my strength in my vulnerabilities. I was no longer afraid of sharing my experiences and my truth. So then, cut forward, my family are aware I'm writing, everyone's aware, but no one in my family really reads. So my pua, my tai, my chacha, my dad, they can't read English, right? So ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜੋ ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲੀ ਜੋ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਆ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ, so they can only read Punjabi fluently, and my book is not written in Punjabi, so none of them have read it. My dad knows I'm doing this thing. In the community it's become apparent कि like एक आई है रूबी लेखक बन गई है,
किताबां लिखियां ने ਉਹਨੇ.
so it didn't hit anyone in my family until ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ family friend ਦੇ ਵਿਆਹ ਤੇ ਗਈ ਸੀ, and I think it was 2017. Yeah, 2018 maybe. Beginning of 2018. Actually, it was 1st of January.
Oh, wow.
On 2018. Another vyasi. What a day to do a wedding, right? And all my family is there. My thai, my chachi, my pua, my dad, my brother. And we're dancing at this wedding. And then the DJ just stops the music. And he's like, I want to talk about this person, a person who's in the room right now.
Wow.
Who has taken our community to a different level, who has put us on the map. And then he just went on to say like all these nice things about me. And then he said my name, and he brought me on the middle of the stage. And it was just a crazy...
And you were not expecting this?
I was not expecting this. It was just out of the blue. And that my dad started crying, he teared up. Wow. My family were all like, oh my God, like they were just congratulating. Like it finally kind of hit
how big this is.
How, I don't know about big, but I guess how far I came from that little girl that I was, you know, like for me it was a big moment.
But Ruby, even the small things are big.
Yeah.
I think we just don't realise them because we're going through the motions.
Yeah.
It's huge.
So that was,
you sit here so humbly and you know, smiling, and this is huge.
Thank you. It just sometimes just feels like sometimes you feel like an imposter. I'm not going to lie. You feel like, well, who am I? Am I the right person to be doing this, to be writing this, to be
who am I? I completely relate to that. I suffer from imposter syndrome like no one else I know. And everybody says to me that knows me, but you come on the show and you're so... you know, you're so confident and you're so this, but I'm like, but inside, I'm like, oh my God, what if I say the right, you know, the wrong thing, or what am I doing? I'm not a TV show host.
Yeah.
I know it's not the same thing, and it's nowhere near as huge as what you've accomplished.
No, of course
but I can still relate to that feeling.
Your
of the
achievements
imposter
are
syndrome.
amazing, and it's never.
We're here to no, I get that.
Yeah.
It's huge, but we're here to talk about you. And so you said that so even at that moment you were feeling that imposter syndrome.
No, at that moment I was overjoyed. At that moment I was like, wow, you know, like this is the same community that I've grown up in, the same community who at one point probably felt really bad for what I'm going through, and so on.
We talked about that.
And now they are all in a room, and I'm being spoken of positively and celebrated. It was crazy. It was definitely one of those really like it's a memory I'll always take forward with me.
What a beautiful memory, and thank you for sharing that with us as well. That means so much. And then I interrupted you for that story just before you were about to tell me another one.
Yeah. So the path to self-love. Self-care is one aspect of self-love. It's one side of the coin.
You said it was external.
It's external. So when I was initially healing, when I was trying to heal, not healing, I've been healing my entire life, but when I was actively trying to move on from like childhood trauma and so on, I tried to do everything. I, you know, joined the gym, tried to work out, had my 2 liters, went on coffee dates, planned with my friends, did as much as I could that I thought was what self-love is, chanted affirmations, did everything by the book. But still I felt low. Still I felt upset. Still I felt anxious and nervous, and that dark feeling in the pit of my stomach wouldn't go away. And the reason being was because I was only focusing on one part of self-love, which was the self-care aspect of self-love. I wasn't thinking about another part, which is a lot harder to do, which is not the self-care aspect. So how I define it is there's easy self-love, which is self-care. It's not easy to do, it's just easily recognizable as self-love. So when you see someone doing that, you think, yep, that person's practicing self-love.
Putting themselves first.
They're putting themselves first. The other part of self-love, which I define as tough self-love, is the harder stuff. The stuff that you do when you're healing. So it's asking yourself the difficult questions after a breakup. It's admitting that you have a drinking problem. It's joining an AA class, going to therapy, setting boundaries, talking to the person who caused you trauma, moving on from emotional abuse, trying to come to terms with why you have commitment issues, or why you get into the kind of relationships that you do, or why you keep getting into this toxic pattern of friendships and friends that are not good for you. So it's asking yourself the hard questions and actively trying to move on.
And answering them honestly.
Now, why do I see this as self-love? Because doing these things is going to eventually make you feel better about yourself. So if you're moving on from heartbreak, yeah, you've had a terrible heartbreak, you're like, okay, let me go get some Ben and Jerry's, let me watch a movie, let me go see the girls, let me do all of that stuff. And then after that heartbreak, 2 months later, you get into the same kind of relationship. You've not done what you needed to do in order to stop yourself from that pattern.
Do you think that going to those, getting the Ben and Jerry's and going to the, coffee dates, meeting with your friends, do you think that's just masking the problem? Is there not a fine line between self-care and self-sabotage? And I think, because you said that even though you were doing everything, you said, I still felt this dark pit in the bottom of my stomach, this dark hole in my, which we've all experienced at some time or another. Do you think, because ਆਪਾਂ ਨਾ ਇੱਕ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਾਠ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, all of those, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ in the Western sense, the way that self-love is presented to us, packaged up into this nice little box and said, this is what self-care or self-love looks like. And you do all of those things, but you still feel the same, is because it's not enough. There's a fine line between just going through the motions and actually caring for yourself. Because when ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਗਲਤ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹਾਂ, ਕਿ ਸੈਲਫ ਕੇਅਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਸੈਲਫ ਸੈਬੋਟੇਜ ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਖਰਾਬ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਨਾਜ਼ੁਕ ਧਾਗਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਲਾਈਕ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਬੈਨ ਐਂਡ ਜੈਰੀਜ਼ ਆਈਸਕ੍ਰੀਮ ਲੈਣਾ, ਲੈਟਸ ਜਸਟ ਸੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਜੀ ਮੇਰਾ ਸੈਲਫ ਕੇਅਰ ਡੇ ਆ, ਅੱਜ ਮੈਂ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ, ਅੱਜ ਮੈਂ TV ਦੇਖਣਾ, ਨੈਟਫਲਿਕਸ ਦੇਖਣਾ, ਸਮੋਸੇ ਖਾਣੇ ਆ, ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਸਾਰਾ ਤ੍ਰਿੰਜਨ ਸ਼ੋ ਮੈਂ ਬਿੰਜ ਵਾਚ ਕਰਨਾ. But this is not good for me, actually, because I'm not really doing something to make myself better. It's temporarily making me better. So self-care ਦੀ ਬਜਾਏ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਕਿਸਮ ਦਾ self-harm ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ.
How I see it is, it's like this. Basically, self-love is you live with the intention to take care of yourself.
ਹਾਂਜੀ.
So ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ self-love practice ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਤਾਂ ਸਾਰੀ intention ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੀ mental, emotional, physical health ਨੂੰ better ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ. Holistically, yeah? So when you do the self-care stuff, the intention is still there. Okay, you're still trying to do something for yourself. The problem is that if you don't do the internal work, that external work is never going to make you feel better. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to have a self-care day, and you binge watch the Trinjan show, you have your samosa, you do whatever it needs
to make you feel
good, stuff that you like doing. If alongside that, you woke up in the morning and you journaled, you called your mum and you had that difficult conversation that's been, causing a ball of anxiety to form at the pit of your stomach, you've got a therapy session booked for the next day or for the next, that's all fine, because self-care essentially is for you to improve your mood, make, boost your joy, boost your vibe. Of course, doing anything more than a certain limit is going to harm you. Anything done in an overexertion is going to harm you, whether it's too many samosa or too many shows and too much ice cream. Like, I get that. But when you know that these things make me feel good, like I like going to the gym, and I'm going to make sure that I go to the gym tomorrow on my self-care day, I like taking a walk, I like grabbing a coffee, that's all fine. But those things are not going to have an impact on you in the long run unless you don't do the actual deep self-love work. So there's nothing wrong with self-care.
So what you're saying is the self-care is kind of like the
complementary.
surface.
It's a complementary.
Yes, I think I understand. And I think this is what I was trying to get to. So self-care is the introduction to self-love almost.
It's like, it's essentially you acting in a way to help yourself. Self-care is essentially you saying, okay, what's going to make me happy, and you doing that. But you can't reap the benefits of self-care unless you do the other work, which is the real tough self-love work. So easy and tough self-love are basically, it's one coin, and they're both two sides of the same coin. They go together. So what I'm trying to say is, if you do just self-care, you're not practicing self-love.
Right.
If you do self-care, if you do the easy self-love work and the tough self-love work, you're practicing self-love. And this is my answer to you know, millions of people around the world who look to social media and look to influencers who indulge in these self-care practices and go for 5 a.m. runs and yoga and meditation and Pilates. And they're like, if I follow in the footsteps of this influencer, I am practicing self-love and I am healing
But you're not,
myself.
because you're just going through the motions.
You're
and
just
not
going through the motions.
Actually, it's like really, it's ripping off the band-aid and looking at the wound, right?
Yeah,
That's the tough self-love.
It's like self-care is like when you are renovating your house. Okay, if you renovate it from the outside and the inside is still old and rusty and broken, it's gonna look great on the outside, but on the inside, it needs to be renovated too.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, and when you're practicing self-love on a healing journey, that's literally what it's like. You are renovating yourself. You're trying to move on and heal from a difficult, painful experience, and you practice, because this is why do we practice self-care? We practice self-care because we think we're practicing self-love. Why do we practice self-love? We want to feel better about ourselves. We want to be happier. We want to heal. We want to have better relationships, live our best lives. So if you're doing all of that, you have to make sure that you do the hard, tough work that doesn't give you the feel-good emotions as well. Because then you're going to be sitting with yourself, having practiced self-care for like 5 months and being like, why am I still not okay? Why am I still pulling up my flab every time I look in the mirror? Why do I still feel low self-esteem when I look at myself? Why do I still feel like I'm not enough for this person who's come into my life? Why do I still keep getting into these toxic relationships? You know, if you're doing the surface level work, you're going to be in the cycle. You have to do and that is what the path to self-love is. It's walking on your individual self-love path, which brings positive emotions and negative emotions, and doing them side by side. I love, you know, I haven't been working out for a while, but I love going for a walk. I love drinking my 2 liters. I love spending time with my family and my friends. I love having a coffee by myself in a cafe with a book. Love that. The only reason I feel peace and at ease when I do it is because I've been working on myself on the side. I've been doing the deep inner work.
Do you think that the self-care and the self-love, to reach that point, there has to be a level of acceptance of the self, of wherever we are at that stage, good, bad, ugly, to actually look at yourself and accept it? Do you think that that is also an essential part on this journey?
Absolutely. I don't think nothing starts until you accept yourself, firstly, and you accept the situation that you're in.
Then that acceptance can only come from being really honest with oneself as well. Do you think then we lie to ourselves as individuals, as human beings often?
I think it's not that we lie. I think we've got a mask in front of our eyes. We don't see things for what they truly are until something really deep and devastating happens, or someone just says it to us and we realize. So a small example is when I initially got into a relationship with my partner, my husband, I had gone through a lot. Okay, I had a lot of baggage, a lot of childhood trauma. I had never seen a healthy relationship in my life. Okay, I had not seen healthy love. There was no concept, there was no primary concept of what a healthy relationship looks like. He was my first partner ever. And I had never before him known what it's like. Yeah, witnessed what it's like to be in a healthy relationship. So things came up in our relationship, right? Up until then, I didn't know the kind of baggage I carried. I didn't know that I can snap that quickly, because your rawest part, your partner sees. The best parts of you they see, but the worst parts of you they see as well, because you're so honest and vulnerable with them. And he sat me down one day and he had a conversation and he was like, look, I can see that you've got these things going on. He's like, nothing's wrong. We're in a good relationship. Nothing's actually wrong. But I can see that sometimes, you do. He's like, is everything okay? Do you want to talk about it? Is there something bothering you? Because there is this certain pattern that I'm seeing that I want to help you. And that's the first time I realized that I am trying to destroy a perfectly healthy relationship because I've not seen
sabotage.
I'm self-sabotaging because I've not seen what a healthy relationship
looks like.
And that motivated me to face the honest truth, which was my concept of love was toxic. There was childhood baggage there. There was trauma that I hadn't healed from. And there was this ideal relationship. Nothing's perfect, but this relationship which could be near perfect if I just healed from what I was going through. And so up until then I was doing all the self-care stuff, but the deep internal work started after that, when I realized
That was like your wake up
that
call.
was my wake up call.
You know, it reminds me of something that my husband said to me once, because very similar to you. When I met him, ਅਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਬਹੁਤੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਝਗੜਾ ਹੋਣਾ, ਛੋਟੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਪਿੱਛੇ, ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਈ ਸਾਲ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ, I think at least for the first year of marriage, ਛੱਡ ਦੇ ਫਿਰ. That is all I ever said. Well, ਛੱਡ ਦੇ ਫਿਰ. And then he similarly had to sit me down one day, and he sat me down and he said, Mono, he said, ਸਾਡਾ ਝਗੜਾ ਹੋਇਆ. ਝਗੜੇ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਸਾਡਾ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਟੁੱਟ ਗਿਆ. And just to hear those words, it was, to someone it might seem something silly, but for me it was huge, because to me jhagda equaled that's it, it's over, because that's what I'd seen when I was growing up. In my time, we weren't allowed to speak out honest feelings and truth, and so we were always hiding it, and if we spoke them, then it was like, right, that's it, you got shut down very quickly. So my husband, he sat me down and he said, we've had an argument. That doesn't mean it's over. It's it's a disagreement. We can agree to have different views and still be together and move on. And that was a wake-up call for me. It was like, oh, okay. So just because we're having a disagreement, it doesn't mean you want to, for me, it was like, you want to leave me, because I have got, had deep-rooted issues of abandonment, for example, and things like that. So we're really running short on time, but we're going to see you again next week, and we're going to talk more about the self-love, the self-care, the acceptance, self-acceptance. And there was something else that you mentioned as well, which has escaped me now.
Tough and easy self-love.
Tough and easy self-love, and honest conversations, hard conversations. But and I've got a question for you, which you're going to answer for me next week. Can everyone get to a point of self-love? Don't answer it now. Think about it, and we'll talk about it next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Ruby, for having us in your beautiful home. We'll see you all again next week. ਦੇਖਣਾ ਨਾ ਭੁੱਲਣਾ, ਹਰ ਸੋਮਵਾਰ ਸ਼ਾਮੀ 6:30 ਵਜੇ ਤ੍ਰਿੰਜਨ ਸ਼ੋ. ਫਿਰ ਮਿਲਾਂਗੇ, ਸਾਡਾ ਆਖਰੀ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਹੋਗਾ ਰੂਬੀ ਡਾਲ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ. ਸੋ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਸ਼ੋ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ.